Howdy. Good morning. Good morning. Hey, Marcus C. Williams here. How you doing this morning? So, a lot of stuff's been going on in our country right now, and in our city, and in our state. So, I'm in Rochester, New York. I love my city. I love my state, but I really don't like the direction that we're going in. It's a pretty rough direction, you know. And if you look at things that are happening, for instance, we just got over all of well, we didn't even get over them really, right? Like the COVID lockdowns and stuff like that, and all of the government overreach that came from that. So people are still a little shell shocked there. But the government's still putting, and I'm talking about our state government, right? And our state government is still putting through all types of horrible, terrible legislation that's going to impact us vastly and adversely, you know? So, like, for instance, the governor right now is fighting in the state Supreme Court so that she can get internment camps in New York State. That's right. Our New York State governor is fighting for internment camps in New York State. You can go look those up. That's a real thing. They're doing it under the guise of health and wellness. It's a whole scam to quell dissent and to lock people up that would be willing to say anything against this horrible regime that we're living under. And I know that sounds like odd or off-putting to some people, and you're like, "Oh, it's not that bad." It's really that bad, and we have to look at it for what it is, and we have to take a real analysis of what's really going on. Otherwise, we'll never be able to address the really crazy stuff that's going on and the absolute hecticness. So we've got this whole illegal immigrant crisis going on right now, which is really, really bad. Like, I mean, bad is not even an operable word to describe it, right? Horrible, horrific, even. And New York State is taking away resources from our New Yorkers that are citizens to give to them. And our governor, Kathy Hochul again, wants to put them in SUNY schools and SUNY campuses and put them in boarding and stuff like this. Now, for decades, since before I've been born, since really when they closed the mental institutions in the 80s, you know, we've had a severe homeless problem in New York State. And you never gave them that level of housing, you know? Right now, I know a lot of you guys are struggling with the prices of food and the price of housing and things like that because rent, housing costs, taxes, mortgages, everything is going out of control, right? But one of the things that's drastically gone beyond out of control is the price of food. So people are legitimately having difficulty feeding their families. And they want to give all of these extra subsidies and feed these people from other countries that are here illegally. And people will say, well, Marcus, they're just migrants looking for jobs. No, they're not. No, they're not. And then let's pretend that they are. Okay, let's say that they are looking for jobs. Whose jobs? Where jobs? Jobs where? What jobs? Right? So now you're talking about hundreds of thousands of people coming to New York State, right? Really, millions have come across the border this year alone. So hundreds of thousands, and those are the ones we know about. Hundreds of thousands of people coming to New York to take jobs. Now, these people don't speak the language. Most of them are not educated. So what jobs would they be competing for? Low quality jobs, you know, low skill, low pay, entry level positions, you know, something that a teenager could get out of school, or somebody that doesn't have above a high school diploma would be able to get, right? So now they're competing with those people for those type of jobs. And that's the ones that do want to possibly work, because Kathy Hochul is trying to expedite work permits for these people. So you want to expedite work permits for them, right? But what jobs are they going to be taking? This is a race to the bottom, right? And now we've got the continued increase in minimum wage, which has shuttered so many businesses in New York State. And you'll get the people that'll argue and they'll tell you, well, if they can't afford to pay a higher minimum wage, then they shouldn't be open. Then if you got to say that out your mouth, then you don't know anything about economics. You don't know how inflation works or even how any of our monetary system in the United States works. And that is a very privileged view of things. You know, it's stupid and bad. But aside from that, when we start giving these people job permits, right, they'll be competing with largely blacks and Hispanics that are American for jobs, right? Because who takes most of the low level paying jobs, especially in New York? Black Americans and Latino Americans, right? Like, this is just facts. Like, I don't care how you feel about it. Those are facts, you know. Facts don't care about your feelings. That's a fact, right? So we also have the poor whites, right? Like, I don't know how many of you know poor whites. Maybe you are one, maybe you grew up around some. But if you really look, these are taking jobs from all of us. Most people aren't able to get these high paying, high class jobs. So they're going to be what? Competing with people who aren't even from this country? Don't they have their own country? You understand what I'm saying? We can't go to their country just like that and get all in there and get all types of extra goodies from the government. And at the same time, our veterans languish. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not taking care of our veterans. They don't give a flying monkey's uncle. Now let's take that back into perspective when it comes to the city of Rochester. So in the city of Rochester, we have a massive homeless problem. Massive homeless problem. You go over to the Rose Garden right down there, it's hundreds and hundreds of homeless. Around the corner from my house is hundreds of homeless people. You understand what I'm saying? Who's housing them? Why aren't they being put up in hotels and being fed and stuff like that? And I'm not saying that they should be. I'm just saying that the priorities are askew. You understand what I'm saying? This is a big deal. But it's not just that. We also have these other issues aside from the illegal immigration and the illegal aliens. We also have the issues with the school boards, right? Teaching kids, they just were pushing through the through the state government, all types of alphabet people education for the children. You want to push alphabet education for the children? I'm not talking about math. I'm talking about LGBTQIABCDFG, whatever the hell the rest of the alphabet is, which is a whole separate conversation on why that's a bad thing and why I'm kind of happy that the lesbians, gays, and bisexual people are trying to separate themselves from the rest of them. Because honestly, it's just an androgyny agenda in which they want to make it so that people are nothing and don't know who they are or what they are. Anyway, that's a separate conversation. Too much for me to get into on that detail today. But so the state pushed through this ridiculous alphabet people curriculum into an educational system that's already failing, right? Like, kids get out of school, they can't do basic math, they can't do basic reading, they can't do basic writing. And you want to teach them alphabet stuff about alphabet people? What even is a LGBTQI plus TZ WXY and Z education even look like? Who gets to decide that, right? You need a panel of 29 different people from 29 different backgrounds from every representational fabric of every alphabet identifying person. How do you even decide on that? How can you get anything that looks like normality or anything reasonable from that, even if there was something to exist like that? But that's besides the point. That's neither here nor there. That's just got nothing to do with the regular educational system. And they'll fight and they'll tell you, oh, it's about inclusion, it's about equity or whatever, diversity. Nobody cares. Nobody cares when people are getting out of school. Okay, even the alphabet people are getting out of school and they can't do math. Come on now, can't do math? How are they supposed to get a job to compete against these illegal aliens? So, I mean, it all goes back to the same stuff, right? Like, if the schools are supposed to prepare the children and the youth for the future, and they're not doing that, what are our elected officials doing? You know, there was a bill that a Republican put before the state assembly to teach financial literacy in school. And it didn't get much press. It didn't even, nobody even really knew about it. This is probably the first time you're hearing about it. And, you know, it got struck down. All of the Democrats voted no on it, almost all of them. And it's a financial literacy program to be taught in schools. But they want to push an alphabet agenda program. Which one's more important, an alphabet agenda program or people being able to understand financial literacy? So this shows you our priorities in our country right now, and this is to the detriment of our people and our community. Then you look at the other issues that we have, going back to finances and inflation and the cost of goods and stuff. The cost of goods is so extreme right now for everything, and it keeps going up and up and up. And if you listen to the people that are in charge of our monetary policy, they don't want to make the cost of goods go down. They want to increase inflation, but they want it to continue to go and inflate at a steady pace. This is what they say, right? So if they want inflation to keep going up, that means that the money is going to keep being worth less and less and less, and you're going to keep having to struggle and scramble for more and more money. And with that happening, at the same time that we have AI and automation taking over everything, it is going to be a very serious issue. It's already a serious issue. Now, let's take that back and couple that with the inflation, with the jobs, with the illegal aliens, right? So the Central Budget Office, which is the nonpartisan group that's in Washington that goes over all of the prices of all of the costs of all of these ridiculous packages and legislation that the federal government does, they say that by 2030, 60% of all jobs across all professions will be taken by AI and machines. I think that's a low number. I think the truth is it's more like 72%. But that's neither here nor there. That's a crap ton, right? So now, what do you think are the fields that are going to be automated away the fastest? The low cost, low skilled, low wage worker jobs, because they're the most easy to automate and they require the most simplicity. So now you've got all these illegal aliens, again, that are trying to be put into the workforce, again, that will be taking these jobs in competition with the Americans and our own citizens. And what do? Right? Because now, bing, bang, boom, in another 5 years, everybody's behind out in the wind, waving. So now they just started a program where you could, if you're a new mother, you could get $1,000 a month or something like that. And so I support basic income, the concept of basic income, but the way that they're implementing it is going to be dreadfully horrible. It's a serious problem because, again, we've got inflation. So you can keep giving money, but you're going to keep having to give more and more money. Now, according to Napoli, or whatever his name is, the comptroller of New York State, the comptroller is a guy who is supposed to oversee all the money and the accounting for the state, basically. So he says that we're down 49% in tax revenue in New York State year over year from April 22 to April 23. So 49%. So where is all this money going to come from, right? The federal government, they ain't got no money neither. We're at a debt ceiling right now that they're trying to actually increase the debt so we have even more debt. This doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And all of this is leading towards more and more inflation. So it doesn't matter how much free money they give out, it'll never be enough for you to be able to live off of, because the more that they give out, the less that it's worth. That's how money works. That's the simple explanation of how all money works in the world. The more you give out, the less that exists, as far as value goes. Now, as I said, all of these things are like really tying in together, and it's very concerning. So now you take into thought the crime that's going on. So you've got all of this crime that's lowering the property values, that's scaring people out of their neighborhoods and homes many have been in for generations. And it's a very serious issue. And a lot of people don't want to talk about it, they don't want to think about it, and they don't want to do anything about it. But some people see what's going on, and especially in New York and the city of Rochester, our two major issues are bail reform and raise the age, which basically make it so that any crime is not punished. And because people don't see that crime is being punished, they're all going out to commit crime. And other people that normally wouldn't commit crime are like, hey, maybe crime is worthwhile. I should go give it a shot because, hey, they're not punishing crime anymore. Let me go see what I can get done. And it's real serious because crime will continue to rise until people start to get punished for doing crime again. There's no way that you should be able to shoot up a neighborhood. We just had this issue with like 5 teenagers got arrested. The SWAT team got called in because they were shooting up a neighborhood or some nonsense. And then, as far as I know, almost all of them got out immediately. Well, not immediately, but within an hour or a day or so. But this is a continued pattern that we're seeing. And now look at all the police resources and all the money that is costing the city, money that could be going to other places, and this is a very, very, very big issue, but people don't want to talk about it. Why don't they want to talk about it? These are the questions that we have to be asking. They think that everything is okay. They try to act like everything is okay when we very well know that everything is not okay. And the government will tell you to your face that what you're seeing is not happening. But we see it. And it's a serious issue. And it's going to be up to us, the people, to come together and unite to actually start to push back. Because if we don't, then all is going to be lost. And I know a lot of you guys out there feel like, oh, well, everything's lost already. No, it's not all lost. They just want to give you the feeling that everything is all lost so that you don't push back, so that you don't push back, so that you don't stand up, because they know that if you did, then you could stifle their plans. Now you'd be like, well, we can't stop what's happening, but you can slow it down. You can slow it down for sure. You might be able to slow it down enough if enough people stood up to make it stop, because they'd give up. They'd be like, fuck it, let's go work on something different. But no, not enough people are going to stand up, and you're going to have to stand up if you want to actually see a difference. So many people right now are just going through the motions of daily life and stuff like that. And as they go through the motions, they're acting like, oh, everything is too big a deal for me to make an impact on, so I won't even try. Or, oh, I'm scared that I'll be called a this, or I'll be called a that, or I'm scared at how I'll look at my job, or I'm scared that what'll happen, or whatever the case is. Now, you know what's going to happen? I'll tell you what's going to happen. You're going to get bent over and ramrodded anyway, regardless. Whether you stand up or whether you don't stand up, whether it's now or whether it's later, you're about to get bent over. And they're going to ravish you roughly, and it ain't going to be fun, and it ain't going to be pleasurable for you. And it's going to be like that because you have to look at who's in control of everything. It's the elites that are in control of everything. It's the political elites also. So you got two factions. You got the political elites and you've got the monetary elites, right? The extremely affluent. And it's a problem. And we, as the people that live here, that live in Rochester, that live in New York State, that live in America, must actually address these issues. But people are scared to stand up. And this is what happens. I'm going to tell you what happens. Everybody picks their own little niche. Everybody picks their own little thing. And there's no collaboration or overlay. Okay? There is no working together. There is none of that. Like, I'll give you an example. These people specifically, school board, these people specifically care about guns. These people specifically care about medical freedoms, and in between, none shall meet. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm not saying that none, right? Like, there's some overlap, right? But the fact is that mostly you couldn't get together 18 people at any given time to stand up for any given cause. And that's the difference between normal people and the far left extremists. You know, that's the big difference. People care, but are people willing to stand up and take the action and the level of action needed? You know, when's the last time you spoke to your state assembly person? When's the last time you spoke to your state senator? Right? Have you ever even? Do you know who your people are? How about your county legislator person? When was the last time you talked to them? Hell, let's bring it down to city council level. When's the last time you spoke to your city council or town council person about issues that are really affecting and impacting you and the community around you? See, this is a serious issue in which people that are the public are not participating in government. In school, they used to have a course. It was called Participation in Government. And it was only like 6 months in the year, right? Before that, they used to, and this is before my time, like I was in school the last year that they really had participation in government in high school, and then they basically got rid of it completely. But before that, they used to have civics. Civics used to be taught in school, which is basically the same thing, just way more in depth. And that used to be a year course. But people don't know who in their districts do what. So they don't know who to complain about what. And they have so many issues, people with so many issues in healthcare. They've got issues with street maintenance. They've got issues with crime. They've got issues with so many different issues, right? They've got issues with the cleanliness of the water system and stuff like that. But so many issues, and they don't even know who to address. You know, they don't know what representative does what. Why? Because we haven't been taught that in school, and they don't come around to tell you what they actually do or what they have the power or authority to do. And that is a shortfalling of not only our political system, but that's been done purposefully by our political system, but also our school system. Because you should know what your government does, what each level of government does, what each person's office has a capacity to do, what they're supposed to do. But they don't teach you that. And people don't go out and look for the answers. This is a serious, serious issue, you know? But more than anything, and I think I'll leave you with this because I could talk on any of these topics for hours. But more than anything, now is the time for people to start to stand up and unite together. Because if we need stuff from the government done, or we want the government to work in different ways, let's just say we're not very happy on the, specifically, let's call it election procedures, right? So maybe we want that changed. We need to come together and we need to actually stand up and we need to push our elected officials that represent us to change those laws. Let's say we're not happy with the treatment of animals at the animal shelter. We need to unite together and stand up to petition our grievances with our elected officials to get them to change the quality of the animal shelter. These are things that we're supposed to do as community members. But most importantly, and I'm going to list some off the top before I get off of here. Most importantly, the educational system is failing. That needs to be addressed. The inflation in the cost of food and the cost of housing is out of control. That needs to be addressed. You understand what I'm saying? The crime is out of control, completely unruly and unacceptable, due specifically to laws and legislation that have been put in place by our state assembly and state senate. That needs to be addressed. Like, these are things that we all know need to be addressed. Everyone, no matter what side of the aisle you sit on, okay, we see them and they're real. And we need to unite together to push back and get our elected officials to do something about it. But everybody's so blind that they want to focus on their one little teeny segment or one little teeny subject, even if they are being active, that they don't want to work with other people that are trying to get these more major concerns addressed. Because we're going to have to start chipping away at this stuff little by little. You know, it didn't get this way overnight. You know, it's gotten this way over a long amount of time. And we got to start chipping away, and keep being diligent and chipping away. The more we chip away, the sooner we can break through the wall and get what we need for our community, for our city, and for our state. So, with that, I encourage you to stand up, speak up, and don't shut up. Take action. You be blessed and be well. I'll catch you later.